He'd spent millions trying to save his son. Every specialist, every treatment, every prayer. Nothing worked. His 3-year-old boy was dying and no one could tell him why. Until the day he came home and heard a sound he hadn't heard in months. His son crying. Not weak, not fading, screaming. He ran toward the sound, heart pounding, terrified of what he'd find. What he saw in that room changed everything. Benjamin Miller had everything except the one thing that mattered: his son's life. Jason had been dying for over a year, slowly, every morning weaker, every night closer to gone. It started after the accident, the one that took Catherine, his wife, in a single moment. Jason was only 2 when he lost his mother. The grief hit him like a bomb. He stopped eating, stopped smiling, started fading. Benjamin did what any father with unlimited money would do. He hired the best doctors in the world, specialists from 3 continents. Every test, every treatment, every desperate attempt to understand why his son was slipping away. The answer was always the same: trauma, weakened immune system, we're doing everything we can. But Jason kept dying, and Benjamin kept drowning in work, 18-hour days, endless meetings, anything to avoid the truth waiting in his son's room. His mother Eleanor moved in to help. Marcus, his best friend and business partner, visited daily. Dr. Sterling made house calls twice a week, adjusting medications, running tests. Everyone was trying. So why wasn't Jason getting better? That Tuesday afternoon, Benjamin came home early. The penthouse felt wrong, too quiet, or maybe too loud. He couldn't tell. Then he heard it, crying. Not the weak sound Jason had been making for months. This was raw, desperate. A child screaming. Benjamin's heart stopped. He dropped everything and ran. When he reached Jason's room and opened the door, what he saw didn't make sense. Maria, the new maid who'd been there only 3 weeks, was on the floor holding his son. Jason was crying, thrashing in her arms, but his eyes were open, alert, alive in a way they hadn't been in over a year. Maria looked up, tears streaming down her face. "Mr. Miller," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I found something." And in that moment, everything Benjamin thought he knew about his son's illness shattered. Before we begin, hit subscribe, drop a like, and tell me where in the world you're watching from, because this story is about the moment everything changes, when someone finally sees the truth, when hope walks in through the last door you'd expect. Stay with me. Maria almost turned around 3 times before she reached the door. 6 a.m. Manhattan still waking up. The Miller building rose like a glass tower, and somewhere 30 floors up, a family she didn't know was waiting. She needed this job. Her mama's medical bills weren't going to pay themselves. But standing in that lobby, something whispered, "Turn around. This isn't for you." She got in the elevator anyway. Mrs. Chen met her in the kitchen, sharp eyes, no smile. She poured coffee and slid it across the counter. "Mr. Miller values privacy. You clean quietly. No questions. No involvement in family matters. Understood?" Maria nodded. "His son Jason is very sick. You'll clean his room last." Mrs. Chen's voice dropped. "And whatever you see in there, it's not your business." An hour later, Maria stood outside Jason's door, heart pounding. The hallway was lined with photos: Benjamin and Catherine Miller smiling at galas, on beaches, holding glasses of champagne. Catherine's smile made you believe in forever, but in the later pictures, Benjamin's eyes looked empty, like he already knew happiness doesn't last. Maria opened the door. Cold air hit her like winter. The room looked perfect. Expensive crib, toys on shelves, painted clouds on the ceiling, but it felt wrong, dead. Jason lay in the crib, barely moving. Grey skin, hollow eyes, lips almost blue. Maria's breath caught. She'd raised her cousins back home. She knew what healthy babies looked like. This wasn't sickness. This was something else. She reached down. His hand was ice cold. Her eyes went to the thermostat. 60 degrees. Someone had turned the heat off. In a baby's room. Maria's hands shook as she adjusted it to 72. Warm air hummed through the vents. She lifted Jason carefully. He was so light, it terrified her, and that's when she smelled it. Chemical, sharp, wrong. She pulled back his sleeve. Dark purple marks under his arm. Fresh, precise. Not bruises. Injection sites. Her stomach twisted. She pulled out her phone and took photos. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. On the nightstand, sat 3 prescription bottles. She photographed those too. That's when she heard footsteps. Heavy, getting closer. Maria's heart slammed. She put Jason back quickly, grabbed a dust cloth, spun toward the window. The door opened. A man in an expensive suit stepped in. 40-something. Smile that didn't touch his eyes. "You must be the new girl," he said smoothly. "Marcus Webb, Jason's godfather." He walked to the crib and looked down at Jason with eyes that made Maria's blood go cold. "How's he doing this morning?" "I don't know, sir. I was just—" "You turned up the heat." "Not a question." Maria's throat went dry. The room was cold. Marcus smiled. "Benjamin's mother has rules about that. Wouldn't want you getting in trouble your first week." He checked his watch. "Dr. Sterling comes at 10 for Jason's treatment. Be ready." He walked to the door. Stopped. "One more thing, Maria." His voice dropped. "Curiosity isn't rewarded here. It's punished." He left. Maria stood frozen, staring at the door. 10 o'clock. Dr. Sterling was coming. And Maria had just stumbled onto something that could get her killed. Maria was cleaning the living room when she heard him. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, like someone walking underwater. She looked up. A man stood in the hallway, tall, early 40s, wearing a wrinkled shirt and pants that probably cost more than her rent. His hair needed cutting. His eyes needed sleep. He stared at the wall like he'd forgotten why he'd walked into the room. Benjamin Miller. For a moment, he didn't seem to notice her. He just stood there, holding a coffee mug, staring at nothing. Then his eyes found hers. "You're new," he said. His voice was flat, empty. "Yes, sir. Maria, I started this week." He nodded slowly, like processing the information took effort. His gaze drifted toward the hallway, toward Jason's room, but he didn't move. Just stared in that direction, like there was a wall he couldn't cross. "Is he awake?" Benjamin asked quietly. I think so, sir." Benjamin's jaw tightened. He looked like he wanted to say something, do something, but he just stood there, frozen. "I should check on him," he finally said, but he didn't move. Maria watched this man, this billionaire who could buy anything, stand 3 feet from his son's door and not be able to walk through it. "Mr. Miller," she said softly. "He's okay. I made sure the room was warm." Something flickered across Benjamin's face. Pain, or maybe guilt. "Thank you," he whispered. Then he turned and walked away, back down the hall, back to wherever he'd been hiding. Maria stood there, heart aching for reasons she couldn't explain. That's when the elevator doors opened. Marcus Webb stepped out, fresh suit, perfect hair, confident smile. He carried a leather bag and moved like he owned the place. "Maria, right?" He set the bag down. "Benjamin around?" He went back to his office. Marcus's smile tightened. Of course he did. He glanced toward Jason's room. "How's the boy this morning?" "I don't know, sir." Marcus checked his watch. "Dr. Sterling should be here soon. Jason's weekly treatment. Very important. We stay on schedule." The way he said, "treatment," made Maria's skin crawl. "What kind of treatment?" she asked, before she could stop herself. Marcus's eyes sharpened. "Medical treatment. For his condition." He picked up his bag. "You're curious. I noticed that earlier. Curiosity is dangerous, Maria, especially for someone in your position." His voice was still friendly, but the threat underneath was clear. "You seem like a smart girl. Smart enough to know when to mind your business." He walked past her toward Benjamin's office, leaving Maria standing alone in the living room. Her phone felt heavy in her pocket. Those photos, those marks. The elevator dinged. An older man stepped out, 60s, grey hair, black medical bag, kind face that somehow felt wrong. "Dr. Sterling." Maria's pulse quickened. He smiled at her. "Good morning. I'm here to see Jason." "Of course." Maria's voice came out steadier than she felt. "His room is down the hall." Dr. Sterling walked past her, and Maria made a decision. She was going to find out exactly what this man was doing to that little boy, even if it killed her. Maria positioned herself in the hallway closet. Through the crack in the door, she had a clear view of Jason's room. Her heart hammered so hard she thought they'd hear it. Dr. Sterling was inside. Marcus stood beside him, and Jason, tiny, grey, barely breathing Jason lay on the changing table. "Same dosage as last week?" Dr. Sterling's voice drifted out. "Increase it slightly." Marcus's tone was casual, like ordering coffee. Benjamin starting to ask questions. "We need visible decline." Maria's blood went ice cold. Dr. Sterling hesitated. Marcus, I don't know if you're getting paid very well to not know things. Marcus cut him off. Do your job. Silence. Then the sound of a medical bag, unzipping. Maria pressed closer to the crack, her breath shallow. Dr. Sterling pulled out a syringe. His hands shook as he filled it with clear liquid from a small vial. He looked at Marcus. This is the last time. After this, I'm done. Marcus smiled. Cold. Empty. You've been saying that for 6 months. I mean it this time. No, you don't. Marcus leaned against the wall. You're in too deep. The money I've paid you, the malpractice suits I've covered, you walk away now, you lose everything. Dr. Sterling's jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. He turned to Jason. Hey, buddy, he said softly, his voice suddenly warm. Fake warm. Just a little medicine. You won't even feel it. Jason's eyes opened dull, exhausted, and he made a small sound. Not quite a cry. Just resignation. Like he'd been through this too many times to fight anymore. Maria's throat tightened. Dr. Sterling lifted Jason's arm, found the spot under his armpit where the other marks were, pressed the needle into tender skin. Jason whimpered. The sound broke something inside Maria. She watched the clear liquid disappear into that tiny body, watched Dr. Sterling pull the needle out and press a cotton ball over the wound, watched Marcus check his watch like he had somewhere more important to be. How long until we see effects? Marcus asked. 20 minutes, maybe less. Dr. Sterling packed his bag quickly, not meeting Marcus's eyes. He'll be noticeably weaker by this afternoon. Good. Benjamin's been working too much to notice, but we can't take chances. Marcus walked toward the door. Same time next week. They left. Maria stayed frozen in the closet, pulse roaring in her ears. She'd just watched them poison a child. In broad daylight, in his own home, and nobody knew. Nobody cared. Nobody was stopping them, except maybe her. She waited until their footsteps faded, then slipped out of the closet and into Jason's room. The little boy lay on the changing table, tears sliding silently down his grey cheeks. Maria picked him up carefully, holding him close. I've got you, baby. I promise. I've got you. But even as she said it, she felt Jason's body growing weaker in her arms. 20 minutes, Dr. Sterling had said. Maria pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She had evidence now. Photos. What she'd witnessed. The medications. But who could she tell? Who would believe a maid over a doctor and a billionaire? Then she remembered. Benjamin. The broken father who couldn't even walk into his son's room. If she could make him see what was happening, really see it, maybe together they could stop this. But first, she had to keep Jason alive, until she figured out how. Maria couldn't eat. She sat in the staff break room, staring at a sandwich she'd bought that morning. Her hands still shook. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw it, the needle, the clear liquid, Jason's silent tears. 20 minutes, Dr. Sterling had said. It had been 45. She'd cleaned 3 rooms since then, moving on autopilot, her mind screaming the whole time. She needed to tell someone. She needed to do something. But who? Mrs. Chen wouldn't listen. Marcus would destroy her. Dr. Sterling was part of it. That left Benjamin, the father who couldn't even look at his own son. Maria stood, her decision made. She walked down the hall toward Benjamin's office, rehearsing what she'd say. Mr. Miller, I need to talk to you about Jason. It's urgent. Life or death? The office door was cracked open. She knocked softly. Mr. Miller? No answer. She pushed the door wider. Benjamin sat at his desk, surrounded by 3 computer monitors, a phone pressed to his ear. He was talking numbers, stock prices, quarterly projections, things that sounded important to everyone except the people who mattered. He glanced up, saw Maria, and held up one finger. Wait. She waited. 5 minutes became 10. The call kept going. Benjamin's voice never changed, flat, robotic, like he was reading a script written by someone else. Finally, he hung up. Yes? He didn't look at her, just stared at his screen. Mr. Miller, I need to talk to you about Jason. His fingers stopped typing, but he still didn't look up. Is he okay? The question hung in the air. Maria wanted to scream. When was the last time you checked? I think something's wrong, something serious. Benjamin's jaw tightened. Dr. Sterling was just here. If there was something wrong, he would have told me. But what if... Maria, his voice was quiet. controlled, but underneath, she heard it: exhaustion, grief, the voice of a man barely holding on. I appreciate your concern, but Jason's medical care is handled by professionals, people who went to medical school, people who know what they're doing. I understand that, but I can't do this right now. Benjamin finally looked at her, and Maria saw it clearly for the first time. He wasn't just tired, he was drowning, barely keeping his head above water. I have 3 meetings today. A board call at 2, investors flying in tomorrow. I can't. His voice cracked. I can't fall apart right now. Your son needs you. The words came out harder than Maria intended. Benjamin's face went pale, then hard. Thank you for your concern, he said coldly. You can go. Mr. Miller, I said you can go. Maria stood there, her heart breaking for this man and hating him at the same time. She turned and walked out. Behind her, she heard Benjamin's phone ring again, heard him answer it, heard his voice go robotic again, discussing things that didn't matter, while his son died 3 rooms away. Maria walked back to Jason's room. The little boy lay in his crib, breathing shallow and weak, exactly like Dr. Sterling had promised. She picked him up gently. His skin was colder than before. Your daddy can't see you right now, she whispered. But I do. I see you. Baby. Jason's fingers wrapped weakly around her thumb. Maria made a decision in that moment. If Benjamin couldn't save his son, she would. Even if it meant losing everything. Even if it meant standing alone against people with power she'd never have. She pulled out her phone and stared at the photos she'd taken. The marks, the medications, the evidence. Tomorrow, Marcus had said, investors were coming, which meant Benjamin would be distracted, which meant tomorrow Maria would dig deeper and find out exactly how deep this evil went. Maria wasn't supposed to be in Benjamin's office. Mrs. Chen had specifically said he was out for the day meetings downtown, wouldn't be back until evening. The office was off limits unless he requested cleaning. But Maria needed answers. She slipped inside quietly, closing the door behind her. The room smelled like leather and coffee. 3 monitors glowed on the desk, papers everywhere. A man drowning in work to avoid feeling anything. She started with the desk drawers, pens, business cards, nothing useful. Then she saw it. A folder on the corner of the desk, thick, official-looking. The tab read, Estate Planning, Updated. Maria's hands trembled as she opened it. Legal documents. Pages and pages of language she barely understood. She flipped through quickly, looking for anything that made sense. Then she stopped. Last Will and Testament of Benjamin Miller. Her eyes scanned down the page. In the event of my death or mental incapacity, full legal guardianship of Jason Alexander Miller, along with controlling interest in Miller Tech Industries, shall pass to Marcus James Webb until Jason reaches the age of 25. The words blurred. Maria read it again, then a 3rd time. If Benjamin died or couldn't take care of Jason, Marcus got everything. The child, the company, total control for 22 years. Her stomach turned. This wasn't just about hurting Jason. This was about taking everything. She pulled out her phone and photographed every page, hands shaking so badly she had to steady herself against the desk. That's when she heard voices in the hallway. Maria's heart stopped. She shoved the folder back where she'd found it and looked around frantically. No time to leave without being seen. She dropped to the floor and slid under the desk just as the door opened. Telling you, Benjamin, the audit can wait. Marcus's voice, smooth, confident. We've got the investor meeting tomorrow. That's what matters. The audit is scheduled in 3 months. Benjamin sounded exhausted. It's routine. I know. I'm just saying, with everything you're dealing with, Jason's health, the pressure, maybe we push it back. Give yourself breathing room. Silence. Maria held her breath under the desk, pulse hammering in her ears. Jason's getting worse, Benjamin said quietly. Doctor, Sterling says it's the trauma. That grief affects children physically. But I don't, his voice broke. I don't know how to help him. You're doing everything you can. Marcus's voice was warm, sympathetic, fake. Listen, I've been thinking. If things get too hard, if you need time away to clear your head, I'm here. I'll take care of Jason. You know that, right? I know. Good. Because you're running yourself into the ground, Ben. And Jason needs you strong. More silence. I should check on him, Benjamin said. You should rest. You've got back-to-back meetings tomorrow. I'll check on Jason. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Footsteps. The door closing. Maria waited, barely breathing. Then she heard it. Marcus's voice, low and cold. On the phone now. It's me. No, he's not suspicious yet. The audit's still 3 months out. A pause. Sterling increased the dosage today. We should see significant decline by the weekend. Another pause. I know the risks. But if we do this right, Benjamin will be too broken to function. I'll have guardianship and control before he even realizes what's happening. Silence. No, the maid's not a problem. Just some girl from Chicago. She won't cause trouble. Maria's blood ran ice cold. Marcus hung up. His footsteps moved toward the door. She stayed frozen under the desk until she heard him leave. Then she crawled out, gasping for air like she'd been underwater. She looked at her phone. The photos of the will. The evidence. Marcus was embezzling. The audit would expose him. So he was poisoning Jason to get guardianship and control of the company before Benjamin found out. And if Jason died, Benjamin would spiral completely. Marcus would have everything. Maria's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She thought about her mama's voice. When you see evil, baby, you don't run. You stand. But how do you stand against someone with unlimited money and power? How do you fight when you're just a girl nobody believes? Maria looked toward the hallway toward Jason's room. She didn't know how, yet, but she was going to stop this, even if it killed her. Maria found Jason turning blue. It was 3 a.m. She'd stayed late, couldn't leave, something in her gut screaming that tonight was different. She'd been dozing in the staff room when she heard it, a sound that wasn't quite a cry, more like a gasp. She ran. Jason's room was dark, cold again. Someone had turned the heat back down. The little boy lay in his crib, lips blue, chest barely moving. His eyes were open but unfocused, staring at nothing. No, 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 no. Maria scooped him up. His body was limp, freezing. Jason, baby, stay with me. She grabbed her phone, dialed 911 with shaking fingers. 911. What's your emergency? I need an ambulance. A child, he's 3 years old. He's not breathing right. His lips are blue. What's the address? Maria gave it. The operator kept talking, asking questions, but Maria barely heard. She was holding Jason against her chest, rubbing his back, begging him to breathe. Come on, baby. Please. Don't leave. Don't you leave. She heard the elevator ding. Footsteps running. Benjamin burst through the door, still in his suit from wherever he'd been. His face went white when he saw Maria holding his son. What happened? His voice cracked. He wasn't breathing right. I called 911. Benjamin took Jason from her arms. And for the first time since Maria had started working here, she saw him really look at his son. Really see him. The grey skin, the sunken eyes, the way his small body barely had weight anymore. My God. Benjamin's voice broke. What's happening to him? Maria's throat tightened. This was it, the moment. She could stay silent and keep her job, or she could tell the truth and lose everything. She thought of her mama, of Jason's weak fingers wrapped around her thumb, of the evil hiding in plain sight. Mr. Miller, she whispered, someone's been poisoning him. Benjamin's head snapped up. What? I found marks under his arms, injection sites, medications he shouldn't be taking. I've been watching, and that's insane. But his voice wavered, like part of him already knew. Dr. Sterling and Marcus. I saw them. I heard them talking about dosages, about making him weaker. Marcus. Benjamin's face went pale. No, Marcus is his godfather. He loves. He wants guardianship. Maria pulled out her phone, hands shaking. I found your will. If something happens to you, Marcus gets Jason and the company. And I heard him on the phone. He's embezzling. The audit in 3 months will expose him. So he's... Her voice broke. He's killing Jason to get control before you find out. The room went silent, except for Jason's labored breathing. Benjamin stared at her, then at his son, then at the marks on Jason's arm that he'd somehow never noticed. Show me, he whispered. Maria showed him the photos, the medications, the will, everything. Benjamin's hands started shaking. His face crumbled. I've been so blind. Tears streamed down his face. I couldn't look at him without seeing Catherine, so I just stopped looking. And while I was hiding, someone was murdering my son. Sirens wailed outside. But Benjamin didn't move. He just held Jason, finally present, finally seeing. "I'm sorry," he sobbed. "Jason, I'm so sorry." The paramedics rushed in, and as they took Jason, Benjamin grabbed Maria's arm. "Help me stop them," he said. "Please, help me save my son." Maria nodded, because this wasn't just her fight anymore. The hospital waiting room smelled like antiseptic and bad coffee. Maria sat in a plastic chair, still wearing her work clothes, staring at the floor. Benjamin paced, back and forth, like if he stopped moving, he'd shatter. They'd been waiting 2 hours. Jason was somewhere behind those double doors, doctors running tests, nurses hooking him to machines, trying to figure out what was killing him. But Maria already knew, and so did Benjamin. He stopped pacing, stood in front of the window, forehead pressed against the glass. "I used to read to him every night," Benjamin said quietly. "Before Catherine died, we'd sit in that rocking chair, and I'd read until he fell asleep." His voice cracked. "After the accident, I couldn't. Every time I looked at him, I saw her. So I just stopped going in." Maria said nothing, just listened. "I told myself I was providing for him, best doctors, best care, that I was being a good father by making sure he had everything." He laughed bitterly. "But I wasn't in the room. I wasn't holding him. I wasn't seeing him." "You were grieving," Maria said softly. "I was hiding." Benjamin turned around, eyes red. "And Marcus knew it. He used my grief as a weapon. Made me think Jason's decline was normal. Made me trust him while his fists clenched. My best friend since college. The man I chose to be my son's godfather." The double doors opened. A doctor came out, young, tired, holding a tablet. "Mr. Miller?" Benjamin rushed over. Maria stood but stayed back, unsure if she belonged in this moment. "Your son is stable," the doctor said, "but we found something concerning in his blood work." "What?" "Toxic levels of immunosuppressants and anticoagulants, medications that suppress the immune system and thin the blood. No child his age should be taking these, especially not at these concentrations." Benjamin's face went white. "Someone's been giving him these intentionally?" the doctor asked carefully. "Yes." Benjamin's voice was barely a whisper. The doctor's expression hardened. "I've already contacted the police. There's a detective on her way. This is a criminal matter now, Mr. Miller." Benjamin nodded, unable to speak. "You can see him in a few minutes. We're running fluids, starting chelation therapy to remove the toxins. He's going to need time to recover, but..." The doctor's voice softened. "You got him here in time. Another day or two." She didn't finish. She didn't have to. Benjamin sank into a chair, head in his hands. Maria sat beside him. "Thank you," he whispered. "If you hadn't stayed, if you hadn't noticed, if you hadn't..." He couldn't finish. "I couldn't walk away from him," Maria said simply. They sat in silence until Benjamin finally spoke again. "I have security cameras in every room. I installed them after Catherine died because I couldn't shake the feeling something was wrong." He looked at Maria. "I have footage of everything, every injection, every conversation, everything Marcus and Dr. Sterling did. Then we have proof. We have more than proof. We have enough to put them in prison for the rest of their lives." His voice turned to steel. "I'm going to destroy him. For what he did to my son, for using my grief, for..." His voice broke again. Footsteps approached. A woman in a grey suit appeared, 40s, sharp eyes, badge on her belt. "Mr. Miller, I'm Detective Sarah Walsh, Special Victims Unit." Benjamin stood. Maria stood with him. "I need to hear everything," Detective Walsh said. And as Benjamin started talking, telling her about Marcus, about Dr. Sterling, about the embezzlement and the will and the poisoning, Maria saw something change in him. The ghost was waking up. The father was coming back. An hour later, Detective Walsh closed her notebook. "We'll execute warrants tonight," she said. "Marcus Webb's home and office, Dr. Sterling's practice. With the video evidence and medical records, this case is airtight." Benjamin nodded. "Can I see my son now?" he asked quietly. The nurse appeared. "Room 304. But please, he's very weak. Don't stay long." Benjamin walked toward the room, stopped, turned to Maria. "Will you come with me?" Maria's throat tightened. "Are you sure?" "You're the only reason he's still alive." Benjamin's eyes filled. "You stayed when I couldn't. You saw him when I wouldn't. Please." They walked together down the sterile hallway, and when Benjamin opened the door to room 304, Maria saw him finally break. Jason looked so small in that hospital bed. Tubes ran from his arms. Monitors beeped softly. His skin was still grey, but his chest moved steadily now. In and out. Fighting. Benjamin stood in the doorway, frozen. Maria touched his arm gently. "He needs you." Benjamin took a shaky breath and walked to the bedside. He sat down slowly, like he was afraid he'd break something. Then he reached out and took Jason's tiny hand in his. "Hey, buddy," he whispered. "It's Daddy." Jason's eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first. Then they found his father's face. And something impossible happened. Jason smiled. Weak, barely there, but real. Benjamin broke. Tears poured down his face. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have been there. I should have seen. I should have—" Jason's small fingers squeezed his father's hand. The machines kept beeping. The fluorescent lights hummed. But in that moment, something sacred happened in room 304. A father found his son again. Maria stepped back toward the door, giving them space. She pulled out her phone, 17 missed calls. Mrs. Chen. 2 numbers she didn't recognize. Then a text from Detective Walsh. "Warrants executed. Both in custody. Call me." Maria's heart pounded. She stepped into the hallway and dialed. "Gibson?" Detective Walsh answered immediately. "Where are you?" "Street Luke's Hospital. With Mr. Miller and Jason." "Good. Stay there. We got them both. Tell me." "Marcus Webb was arrested at his office an hour ago. Tried to run, made it to the parking garage before officers tackled him. Found him trying to wipe his laptop." Walsh's voice turned cold. "Too late. We already had everything from Miller's security footage. And Dr. Sterling broke down the second we showed him the evidence. Full confession. Bank records showing Marcus paid him $500,000 over 18 months. Every injection documented. Every conversation recorded." A pause. "He's testifying against Webb in exchange for a reduced sentence." Maria closed her eyes. "It's really over. For them? Yes. Marcus Webb is looking at attempted murder, conspiracy, embezzlement, fraud. He'll die in prison. Sterling loses his license permanently. Minimum 15 years. Justice. Real justice. But it felt hollow somehow. Because Jason was still in that hospital bed, Benjamin had still lost 2 years with his son. Catherine was still gone. Evil had been stopped, but the damage was already done. "Gibson," Walsh's voice softened. "You did good. Most people would have walked away. You didn't. I couldn't. I know. That's what makes you different." Maria hung up and walked back to the room. Through the window, she saw Benjamin lying beside Jason on the hospital bed carefully, so carefully holding his son like he was made of glass. Jason was awake now, looking at his father, really looking. And Benjamin was crying, whispering things Maria couldn't hear. Probably apologies, probably promises, probably prayers. A nurse passed Maria in the hallway. "That father's barely left that room. First time I've seen him actually hold his son." "He's been lost," Maria said quietly, "but I think he's finding his way back." The nurse smiled sadly. "Some people need permission to heal. Looks like you gave him that." Maria's phone buzzed. A news alert. Billionaire's business partner arrested in shocking child poisoning case. It was already spreading. The story the world would see. Wealth, betrayal, near tragedy. But Maria knew the real story. It was about a father too broken to see, a child too weak to cry, and a woman who refused to look away when everyone told her to. Maria looked back through the window. Benjamin caught her eye and mouthed 2 words. "Thank you." She nodded. But this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning of something else. Something harder than stopping evil. Learning to live after it. Maria stood at the window of her new office, watching the park across the street. The sign on the door behind her read, "Gibson Family Advocacy Center. When silence costs lives." Benjamin had funded it. Not out of guilt, though he carried plenty of that. But because Maria had shown him something. One person paying attention can change everything. Her phone rang. A mother from Connecticut. Her daughter's nanny noticed bruises. Nobody was listening. "Tell me everything," Maria said, grabbing her notebook. "Don't leave anything out." This was her life now. Teaching people to see what others missed, to speak when silence felt safer, to stand when standing felt impossible. 47 children so far, 47 lives saved because someone finally paid attention. Through the window, she saw them, Benjamin and Jason in the park, father and son, running through fallen leaves. Jason's laugh carried on the wind, full, bright, alive. His skin glowed pink with health, his eyes sparkled the way 4-year-old eyes should. Benjamin chased him, both of them breathless with joy. No more grey skin, no more hollow eyes, no more dying in plain sight. Just a little boy being a little boy, and a father finally present enough to see it. They spotted Maria in the window. Jason waved frantically, jumping up and down. Benjamin lifted him onto his shoulders, and they walked toward the building. 5 minutes later, they burst through her office door. "Maria!" Jason launched himself at her. She caught him, laughing, holding him tight. "Hey, baby, you get taller every time I see you. Daddy says I'm gonna be bigger than him." Benjamin smiled a real smile, the kind that reached his eyes now. "We brought lunch. Thought you might be hungry." They sat on the floor of her office like they did most Tuesdays. Sandwiches from the deli, apple juice for Jason, coffee for the adults. "How's the new case?" Benjamin asked quietly, watching his son color at Maria's desk. "Scary, but we'll get her out." Benjamin nodded. He understood now. Understood that evil didn't just live in penthouses, that children everywhere needed someone to notice, to care, to fight. "We got the sentencing today," he said. "Marcus got life without parole, additional charges for Catherine's death." Maria had known it was coming, but hearing it still felt like something settling into place. Justice, imperfect, but real. "How do you feel?" she asked. Benjamin watched his son. "I spent a year hating him, hating myself, drowning in what I missed, what I lost." He paused. "But Jason's therapist said something last week. She said grief is just love with nowhere to go, and I'd been directing mine at work, at anger, at everything except the person who needed it most." Jason looked up from his coloring. "Daddy doesn't work all the time anymore." "No," Benjamin said softly. "I don't." He'd stepped back from Miller Tech, hired new leadership, still involved but no longer consumed, because he'd learned something most people never do. You can build empires and still lose everything that matters. Jason tugged Maria's sleeve. "I made you something." He handed her a drawing. 2 stick figures holding hands. One tall, one small. "That's you and me," he explained. "The day you saved me." Maria's throat tightened. She looked at this little boy, alive, thriving, whole, and felt something break open in her chest. "You know what I think?" she said, pulling him close. "I think maybe we saved each other." Benjamin's eyes filled. "You gave me my son back. You gave me my life back. You were always his father," Maria said gently. "You just needed someone to remind you." They sat in comfortable silence. Jason colored. Benjamin sipped coffee. Maria answered emails from families in crisis. Outside, the sun broke through clouds. And Maria thought about her mama's voice from all those years ago. "Sometimes, baby, God puts you exactly where you need to be, even when it costs you everything, because somebody needs you to be brave." She'd been terrified that first morning in the Miller penthouse. A girl from Chicago's South Side, with nothing but instinct and courage. She'd risked everything, her job, her safety, her life for a child who wasn't hers. And in the process, she'd learned something she'd carry forever. Love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, patient, refusing to look away when everyone else does. Sometimes it's just staying, seeing, caring when caring costs you everything. Jason looked up from his drawing. "Maria, can you come to my birthday party?" "Wouldn't miss it, baby." Benjamin caught her eye and smiled, grateful, humbled, forever changed. Because some people come into your life for a reason. Some save you, and some teach you that the bravest thing you can do is fight for someone else's child when the whole world tells you it's not your place. Maria looked at the phone on her desk. It would ring again tomorrow. Another family, another crisis, another child who needed someone to see them, and she'd answer. Because she'd learned something in that cold penthouse room. Every child deserves someone who refuses to walk away. Every child deserves someone brave enough to stand, even when standing costs everything. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop a comment and let us know. And if this story touched something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes, The bravest thing we can do is simply care. Subscribe for more stories that remind you you're not alone. Hope is real, and love always finds a way.